Okay, so you're ready to hire a Smarty developer, but you've got a ton of questions. We're going to tackle those FAQs right now to help you find the perfect fit. And to guide us, we've got insights straight from theperfectdeveloper.com. They're the experts in connecting businesses with awesome tech talent. In fact, they've got this super helpful tool. It's called the 5 questions. It can really make your search a lot easier. I'd suggest checking it out at theperfectdeveloper.com even before we get started.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic resource, and it helps you figure out exactly what you need right away.
All right, so what exactly is a Smarty developer? What makes them so special?
Well, imagine someone who can make your website beautiful and functional. Smarty developers are masters of this because they use a system that separates the look and feel of your site from the complex code behind it.
Oh, so it's kind of like an architect for the structure and then an interior designer for the aesthetics.
That is a great analogy. And the separation makes a huge difference in the long run. Think easier, updates, fewer bugs, and ultimately a smoother experience for your users.
Makes sense. Okay, so we know they're organized, but what skills should we be looking for specifically? Obviously, PHP and Smarty, right?
Definitely must-haves. But don't underestimate those front-end skills too. We're talking HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the whole shebang. A good Smarty developer understands how their work impacts what your users actually see and experience.
Right, because a site that's like clunky and hard to navigate, that'll send users running no matter how great the code is.
Now let's talk budget. What salary range should we be thinking about for these Smarty wizards?
That's where it gets interesting. Salary can vary a lot depending on experience, location, and even the scope of the project. For example, a junior developer in Southeast Asia might cost significantly less than a senior developer in North America.
So finding that balance between budget and experience is key. Theperfectdeveloper.com can really help with that, right?
Absolutely. They have tools and resources that can help you find the right talent at the right price, based on what you need.
Awesome. All right, we're starting to get a picture of what we need. But what about bringing someone on board? What are our options there? You've got a few different hiring models to choose from: full-time, part-time, freelance. Each one has its pros and cons. It all depends on the project's scope and how long it's going to last.
So before we even start looking, we need to know what we need and for how long.
Exactly. Defining your project scope will help you choose the right hiring model. And if you're feeling lost, remember, theperfectdeveloper.com can guide you through all of this.
Perfect.
Okay, so you figured out what you need from a Smarty developer. Now the question is, how do you actually find these talented people?
Yeah, it can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack sometimes. How do we find the ones that really excel with Smarty?
Well, there's the traditional route, like job boards, Indeed, LinkedIn, but a more targeted approach would be using a platform like theperfectdeveloper.com. They actually specialize in matching businesses with developers that have been vetted for their skills and experience.
Oh, wow. So it's like a matchmaking service for the tech world. That could
Uh-huh.
save a ton of time and energy.
Yeah, especially if they're already weeding out those less qualified candidates.
Okay, so what does their vetting process actually look like?
It's really thorough. They go way beyond just glancing at a resume. First, they tap into this vast network of over 500 channels to source potential candidates.
Wow, 500.
Yeah. And then they put those candidates through a series of technical assessments to really gauge their Smarty and PHP knowledge.
So we can be confident they're not just looking for buzzwords, they're actually testing their skills.
Exactly. But it doesn't stop there. They also evaluate candidates for soft skills like communication, problem solving, adaptability.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
Right, because those are the things that separate a good developer from a truly great one.
That's really reassuring because technical skills are only part of the equation. We need someone who can collaborate effectively and really thrive in a team environment.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else they do to kind of ensure they're finding the best of the best?
Absolutely. ThePerfectDeveloper.com also does thorough background checks. They'll look at a candidate's GitHub profile, review past projects, leave no stone unturned, basically, to make sure they're the real deal.
All right, so let's say we've got this pool of super qualified candidates, thanks to theperfectdeveloper.com. Now it's time for the interviews. What are some key questions we should ask to get to know these potential Smarty stars?
I would say don't just focus on the technical stuff. While it's important to gauge their Smarty and PHP knowledge, you really want to understand their problem-solving process. Ask them how they approach challenges, how they communicate their ideas, really get a sense of their personality and work style.
So it's about going beyond the technical and finding someone who's a good fit for the company culture.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to get creative with the interview format. You could do pair programming exercises, have them walk you through a past project, even give them a small coding challenge just to see how they approach it.
So we've interviewed our candidates. We've deliberated. We found the one. We're ready to make an offer. How do we navigate that salary conversation?
Well, transparency is key. Be upfront about your budget and what you're willing to offer. And remember, compensation isn't just about salary. Think benefits, perks, company culture. These can all be super important in attracting top talent.
So it's about crafting a compelling package that goes beyond just the numbers.
Exactly. And if you're struggling to find that balance, theperfectdeveloper.com can help you. Like benchmark salaries, understand industry standards, and structure an offer that's competitive and attractive.
That is so helpful. It sounds like theperfectdeveloper.com is a valuable resource throughout this whole process.
Oh, they really are. They take a lot of the guesswork out of hiring developers, which can be a huge relief for businesses.
Okay, before we move on to that final stage of onboarding, let's take a moment to reflect. What stands out to you from our conversation so far?
What about you?
I think what's really hitting me is the importance of finding a developer who's not just technically skilled, but also a good cultural fit. Finding someone who shares our vision and can collaborate with the team. And it's great to know that resources like theperfectdeveloper.com exist to kind of help us navigate this whole process.
I totally agree. Finding the right developer is an investment in your company's future, and it's worth taking the time to get it right.
Well said. For those of you listening, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll cover that final stage of bringing your new Smarty superstar on board and setting them up for success. Okay, so we've talked about finding and vetting your Smarty developer. Now, how do we make sure they hit the ground running?
Onboarding. It's more than just giving them a laptop and hoping for the best. It's about setting them up for success from day one.
Okay, so what does good onboarding actually look like?
Well, theperfectdeveloper.com. They emphasize making your new hire feel welcome and comfortable. Think about those first day rituals, like a welcome breakfast with the team, or a handwritten note from their manager, little things like that.
Yeah, it's those personal touches that really show you're invested in them as a person, not just another employee.
Exactly. Of course, you also got to take care of the practical stuff, too. Setting up accounts, giving access to software and systems, making sure their development environment is all ready to go.
Yeah, no fumbling around for passwords on the first day.
Yeah.
What about actually getting them familiar with the project?
Give them a clear overview of the code base. Point them to any relevant documentation. And maybe assign a buddy, a seasoned team member who can answer their questions.
So it's like having a mentor, right? Someone who's been there and done that.
Exactly.
Okay, what about ongoing support and development? How do we make sure they keep growing and, thriving?
Regular check-ins, mentoring opportunities, professional development resources are all important. It's showing them that you're invested in their growth and that you value their contributions.
It's not just about getting them up to speed. It's creating that supportive environment where they can keep learning and developing their skills.
Absolutely, and that benefits everyone.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From defining a Smarty developer to navigating the hiring process and onboarding your new team member. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, hiring a developer, especially one specializing in a framework like Smarty, it can seem pretty daunting, but remember, it's a process. Break it down into steps. Focus on finding the right fit. And use those resources like theperfectdeveloper.com to guide you. They can help you find those hidden gems who are ready to help you build something amazing.
I love that. It's about having a plan, being clear about your needs, and knowing that there's support available.
Exactly.
So for those of you ready to start your Smarty developer search, remember to check out the 5 questions at theperfectdeveloper.com. It's a fantastic tool to help you get started on the right foot.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the